Today we have with us distinguished dignitaries, personalities who have created a name for themselves through their persistent efforts. Our chief guest of the day, Professor Pravinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Rai Bahara University. Guest of honor, Professor Tajinder Sharma, Chairman, Department of Commerce, Kurukshetra University. Keynote speaker, Professor Gurcharan Singh, ex-chairman, School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala. Mr. D.K. Sindhavani, Secretary, Governing Body, Sri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management. Professor Dr. Vishal Kumar, Principal SACCM, all the institutional heads and HODs from various institutions, members of faculty and research scholars. On behalf of SACCM family, headed by Padma Bhushan awardee Sri S.P. Oswal, Chairman of the College and Vardhaman Group, I, Pooja Jain, welcome you all to the valedictory session of the two-day workshop on delivery and design of case studies. We seek the blessings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother and move ahead. I take the opportunity to invite the ever supporting Mr. D.K. Sindhavani, Secretary Governing Body SACCM, for the welcome address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. A very good afternoon to all of you. As we approach the successful conclusion of a highly informative two-day workshop, Delivery and Design of Case Studies, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the accomplished educators who have made today and yesterday an incredible opportunity for growth and learning that is indeed transformational. I take this opportunity of extending a hearty welcome to all the intellectuals who made their rich participation in this grand academic carnival. It's a great privilege for me to extend a special welcome to our chief guest of the valedictory session, a fountain of knowledge and wisdom, Professor Pravinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Rai Bahara University, Mohali. Along with Professor Pravinder Singh, I am pleased to pronounce an honorable accommodation from Kurukshetra University, Professor Tajinder Sharma, Chairman, Department of Commerce, as the guest of honor, and an eminent scholar, Professor Gurcharan Singh, ex-chairman, School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala, as the keynote speaker. I am pleased to welcome all the resource persons who have been here with us for this program. We are grateful for your presence and the valuable insights you have provided that uphold this workshop's credibility. I would also like to acknowledge and appreciate the initiative taken by our principal, Dr. Vishal Kumar, for designing such a fruitful workshop. It's indeed heartening that he's bringing new approaches of teaching and learning to the SACCM portal. I'm sure all his initiatives will continue to propel our college forward in the times to come. I would also like to applaud the faculty members of SACCM who have immensely contributed to make this workshop on delivery and design of case studies a success. The case method has been used as a pedagogical tool and is accepted widely in the academic as well as business world. Particularly in the commerce and management field, pedagogy is incomplete without acquainting the accommodations with the case study mechanism. I strongly believe that through interaction with experts on the subject, you all have made concrete strides in the quest for a better learning experience, which is an irresistible tool for every individual. It gives us the power to limitlessly expand our minds and to dispel negativity. Like any other vital instrument, it is a necessity for personal and professional growth because it makes us capable of understanding and overcoming challenges. I'm sure our teaching fraternity must have learned a great deal regarding the novel state of the art techniques in teaching and writing case studies. I myself have an experience of going through a couple of case studies which were written by our faculty in SACCM, and I was amazed at the depth with which those case studies were written. And I'm sure it is a feast not only for the teacher who does it, but also for the people like us who read those case studies and stand to gain out of it. I do hope that the program participants have filled themselves with knowledge, enthusiasm, and drive in this 2 days workshop. We now need to fuel it forward by sharing what we learned and putting the new ideas into practice. So I once again welcome you all and extend my best wishes for greater learning times ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simrani sir, for your welcome address. You brought out the relevance of case studies, and also thank you for your words of appreciation for all of us, and also for facilitating us for the conduct of this workshop. So thank you so much, sir. Now, I invite the person whose initiative and guidance made this workshop possible, Professor Vishal Kumar, Principal SACCM, for his address and also for presenting the report of the workshop. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. Thank you, Sindhwani sir, for your words of wisdom and encouragement. On this highly eventful occasion, it is my privilege to welcome the renowned academicians and distinguished guest of this valedictory session, Professor Parvinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Riyat Bahara University, Mohali. Guest of honor, Professor Tajinder Sharma, Chairman, Department of Commerce, Kurukshetra University. Keynote speaker, Professor Gurcharan Singh, Professor and ex-chairman, School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala. Today is the culmination of this two-day national workshop on delivery and design of case studies. I truly relish the fact that SACCM has the rich practice of inviting to its campus the erudite scholars of eminence who have earned a name and fame in their respective fields. During these 2 days, the topmost academicians and researchers have joined us to give their knowledge and enlighten the participants with their rich experience. I take this opportunity to present before you a report of the workshop, which is also my responsibility as being the workshop chairperson. The workshop that started on March 2nd with participants from all over India fetched a tremendous response from the researchers and educators. The very powerful student-centric teaching pedagogy, as Indwani sir said, of case study was selected as the theme of this workshop due to its extensive application in research, education, and real business world. The inaugural address was delivered by Padma Bhushan Shri S.P. Oswalji, Chairman, College Governing Body, and the Chief Patron of the workshop, in which he addressed the gathering with the relevance of writing the case studies for building theories and problem solving on real-time basis. Shri S.P. Oswal, in his address, emphasized the need of imparting practical knowledge to the students by teaching through case study method. The inaugural session was presided over by the chief guest, Professor Anju Suri, Dean College Development Council, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Professor Suri elaborated the need of developing theories for decision making, logical analysis, and building the case to grasp the situation, citing examples from her own area of specialization, that is Indian history. So it was really amazing. The guest of honor for the inaugural session was Professor Prikshit Manhas, Rector Udhampur campus and Director of so many institutions, University of Jammu, where he emphasized on building the case based on government, academic, and industry interface model, and gave very very important five mantras of AEIOU, that is adaptability, efficiency, inclusivity, opportunity, and universality. The keynote address was delivered by Professor Nawab Ali Khan, Chairman, Department of Commerce, Aligarh Muslim University, where he presented the holistic view of case development by linking it with exploratory research and using case studies in honing analytically and critical thinking skills of the students. Two technical sessions were organized on 2nd March yesterday. The eminent speaker of the day was Professor Pankaj Madan, Dean and Professor at Gurukul Kangri Vishwavidyalaya, Haridwar. Professor Madan spoke on the theme case teaching and discussion in a very engaging and interactive manner. He particularized as to how management cases can be formed, choreographed, and steered by teacher in a classroom setting. He also shared very interesting techniques of drafting the case study and gave useful tips to make teaching engaging through case study methods. He made the participants understand the case teaching and class managing phenomena by putting them in the role of the resource person and students, and provided the experiential learning to all the participants. It was really out of the box. The resource person for day two was Professor Ajoy K. Day, a very renowned academician, professor from Birla Institute of Management Technology, Noida. He spoke on the theme Understanding the Design of Teaching Case. Talking about the importance of the case studies, he highlighted that the wonderful pedagogical tool of case study can be very useful classroom strategy if related with the learning outcomes of a particular courses. Professor Day further added that incorporating the Bloom's taxonomy while framing the case-based questions can help developing high-order thinking skills of the students. Drawing a very comprehensive distinction between a teaching and research case, he covered the aspects of drafting a teaching case, developing its teaching notes, evaluating a teaching case in a very interesting and powerful manner. So, all the technical sessions were very interesting and informative. Participants were acquainted with various advanced methods of designing and developing the case studies. This in turn will bringing out new knowledge in the powerful technique of case study teaching. At the end, I would like to congratulate the entire organizing team, Madam Monica Sethi, Dr. Pooja Jain, and Mr. Sanjay Gupta, who worked day and night for the grand success of this event. I also appreciate the rigorous endeavors of our IT professional, Mr. Vijay Chabada, for giving his technical support and handling all the technical issues. I also want to thank all the reporters and content editing team for providing us device report and all those who directly or indirectly were involved in this event. Thank you so much. Jai Hind. Over to you, Dr. Pooja.
Thank you so much, sir, for presenting an account of the workshop. Also, gratitude for bringing the galaxy of seasoned speakers, who share their valuable views on the case method of teaching. Also, I express my thankfulness on behalf of the organizing team for acknowledging the efforts. I find myself fortunate to have got the opportunity to invite our guest of honor, Professor Tejinder Sharma, for sharing his views. Professor Tejinder Sharma is presently working as chairman and professor in Department of Commerce at Kurukshetra University. He has over 23 years of corporate, academic, and research experience, and his research interests are particularly in the field of marketing. He completed his doctoral research from Kurukshetra University and has over 50 publications in journals of international and national repute. He has completed one UGC sponsored major research project on potential and consumer behavior of subsistence marketplaces, a study in Haryana. He is in the editorial and referee boards of several international and national journals. He has organized 7 international and national conferences in India and abroad. He has been invited thrice by University of Illinois as domain expert on subsistence marketplaces and has been academic coordinator of several delegation of overseas students. He is conference chair of prestigious first immersion conference being organized by Subsistence Marketplace Initiative of University of Illinois and has been the track chair of the annual conference of Association of Collegiate Marketing Educators of USA. He has been member of University Court, Academic Council, Chancellor Nominee Selection Committees, DRS Committee, Board of School, Board of Studies of several reputed universities. A prolific speaker, he has been invited in several reputed conferences, seminars, workshops, and invited lectures in several colleges and universities of the country. Besides being an academician of repute, Professor Tejinder Sharma held several academic positions in the university. He has been Program Officer NSS and then University Coordinator of NSS in Kurukshetra University and has provided social leadership to over 19,000 NSS volunteers. It was during his tenure that university's NSS volunteers led the contingent in the prestigious Republic Day parade, and over 30,000 trees were planted by the NSS volunteers, and over 20,000 units of blood were collected. As a nodal officer of NIRF in 2017, he has made tireless efforts to get KU ranked among top 100 institutions of higher education in the country. He has been the member of core team which has spearheaded the university to NAC A+ grade. He has been director public relations and has spearheaded the digital campaign of the university. He was also the nodal officer of CEM's window, social media, and is committed to transparency and efficiency of the systems. He has also been the director, youth and cultural affairs of the university. Kurukshetra had the honor to organize 13th South Asian University South Youth Festival during his tenure. He has also been the director, Directorate of Distance Education, Kurukshetra University, and is the president of Haryana Commerce and Management Association. So now I invite you, sir, to kindly share your words of wisdom. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pooja. Professor Palvinder Singh ji, Vice Chancellor of Riyadh Bara University. Dr. Vishal, Principal, Shri Aurobindo College, Ludhiana. Shri D.K. Sindhwani ji, Secretary Managing Committee. Professor Gurucharan Singh from Punjabi University. Dear academicians, fellow academicians, and participants. I am so grateful to Vishal, who made a phone call last week and told me that we are organizing a case study workshop, and I have to speak during the valedictory session. I first of all congratulated him for his new assignment, and I'm sure that under his steering position as a principal of this very prestigious college, the college will touch newer heights of academic excellence. India has a very rich tradition in terms of using very innovative methods of teaching. everybody can teach an intelligent student, right? If we have a class of intelligent student, the challenge for the teacher is very less, because it is easy for that student to grasp the things, to understand the things, and to know what the teacher is saying. The real challenge is that when the student is not able to say understand the concepts, what can we do so that we can make the complexities which we are trying to explain being understood by the student in most easy language. I take you back to a few thousand years ago. This challenge was faced by a king. He had 4 princes. And as you know, the son of a king is always a spoiled child, you know. His children never studied from any teacher, right? Any teacher who would come, his children used to make him run away because they were so naughty, no teacher could really do something to teach them. So finally, they hired the services of a teacher whose name was Vishnu Sharma. Vishnu Sharma came to the court of the king and said, okay, I take up the challenge of educating your children. The king said, see, so many learned people have tried it, but they have not been successful. So what will you do? Because my children are very naughty, you know, and teaching a prince is a challenge, because you have to really be very, very smart enough to do that. The teacher said, don't worry, sir. I'm not going to teach them anything. I'm just going to tell them some stories, right? And I'm going to have fun with them. That's all, right? You don't worry about me. And in the end, you know what maximum will happen? They will not learn anything. So the teacher was assigned to these naughty princes. And the teacher started telling them stories. Stories of the animals, stories of the people, stories which were having a situation. And finally, in the end of the story, there used to be a message. There used to be a learning. Yes, my dear friends, I'm talking about Panchatantra. You have heard about Panchatantra, which I believe is probably one of the first, documents which has used case study method, in which they have tried to create a situation, in which they have tried to even out various complexities, and finally come up with a solution. And similarly, out of that solution, you know, there would be learning. Similarly, you must have heard about the stories of Vikram and Vetal, right? They also had a very complex situation in which a hypothetical character, Vetal, would give a situation to the king, right? And the king was supposed to find out the optimal solution in this complex situation. Similarly, you know, we have got a Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad is a dialogue between Yam and Nachiketa. This Kathopanishad is also a story, which teaches us so many complex things, right? Similarly, in the Buddhist tradition, we have Jataka tales. Each of them are nothing but case studies. So we have always relied on storytelling method of the teaching. Case studies, a much refined version of storytelling, because people learn from diverse sources, but really intelligent people, they learn from the situations which others have faced earlier. Now, in the management education particularly, you know, we have come a long way. Initially, management education primarily use cases. At the end of every book, there used to be cases. And teachers used to use these cases, and they used to discuss them into the class. There used to be role-playing sessions. There used to be, over-the-table discussions on what should be the optimal course of action. But over the years, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, but the development is that even management education has become something like a classroom teaching, wherein syllabus contains nature, scope, definition, advantages, disadvantages, And then finally, merits, demerits, and that's all. And the type of questions that we ask, they are also becoming very generic. And that is the reason why we find that students are not able to understand the complexity, are not able to actually use their knowledge into practical life. It is a time when this kind of the legacy of our being teachers will not continue for long. We will have to come up with innovations in the way in which we have been conducting the classes. We need to really relearn the case study method. And the workshop which you have organized is definitely a very good step. Vishalji, we often say that, we are, say, relying on basic methods of teaching. But then the point is, where is the training for the teacher? Who is training the teacher? NEP has rightfully acknowledged the importance of teacher as it's a teacher-centric document, because only one thing can change the fate of our education system, that is the skill, capability, and commitment of the teacher. So you have done a good work by really, say, empowering the teachers with this new skill set, with this new knowledge, with this new method, which they should ultimately use it into their classrooms. You are living in a wonderful city called Ludhiana, right? And the teachers, they know it's a business city, right? Ludhiana, ask any situation, ask any case study, ask any problem in management, and there is a situation in Ludhiana which exists. Now, the challenge for those teachers is that how those teachers are able to document them into cases and then use them into their classrooms. In India, we are still relying on the cases which are written in the Western world. We spend money to purchase those cases. But I think so now, it is a time when we Indians need to develop our own India-centric knowledge systems so that our own cases are, our own cases are understood by the students, because they would be able to visualize those situations which they themselves see around themselves every day, right? If we will rely on some Western knowledge, it will be only imagination-based understanding at the end of the students. If we will use our own cases, which are crafted specifically for Punjab, for Haryana, for Himachal, for J&K, we know we are facing all these complexities. World is here. If we can craft out, if we can design, if we can develop the cases which are specific to our situations, I think so they will give us a real understanding of the situation which the managers face in India. Many a times industry cribs that the students are not employable. The students after their graduation are not ready to take up the immediate challenge or bigger positions into the into the say, corporate sector. The reason is our lack of training, and these kind of newer methods of teaching, for which teachers really need to have a training, will pave a long way in improving the quality of our education. If we have to make India a Vishwa Guru, it will not be done just by rhetoric. It will not be done just by, say, setting up lofty goals or by speaking of our very glorious past. We have to live in reality, because in reality, we have come a long way from where we were. And we need to develop our mechanisms into the education sector, which has now become almost an industry, so that we can match with the very best in the world. Small initiatives are going to make a very big difference. And I am sure that this is just a beginning of the series of events which will be organized to empower the teacher. Empower the teacher with the newer skill set, so that they can write down their cases. And not only writing down the cases, they can discuss it in the class, they can explain it in the class. When they go into the classrooms, they know what all can be the talking points, what all can be the places where, say, decisions, the uncertainty needs to be pointed out, what all can be the, say, places to initiate the discussion, to develop or foster the ideas into the minds of the young learners, this is something which teachers really need to learn, which really need to understand, because otherwise case will become another story. And a case is not a story. Case is definitely not a story, right? Case is a situation. It's a decision science. It's a method which helps you to understand the business environment, to understand the internal, say, profiling of the organization, to understand the strength and weaknesses, to say map the resources, and then optimize upon the best course of action. So this is a big challenge which we all really need to understand. And I'm sure that say this will this events like this, they will empower the teacher. The teachers will be able to say put in newer methods into their everyday classroom. As long as we don't plan our classes, as long as we don't really go ahead with the learning objectives or the learning outcomes which we want to achieve as a result of say offering this particular program, I think so we will not be able to say really know what is it that we want to achieve by offering a program. So we really need to redefine our syllabus, then design the content according to the objectives which we want to achieve out of it, and then finally evaluate on those parameters. If we have to make our education system really robust, two very important things they need to be done. Firstly, we need to have an easy entry into the education, but we need to have a very difficult exit from the education system. Evaluation is as important as it is for any other, say, field of knowledge. Similarly, the interdisciplinary nature of case studies needs to be understood. I was talking to a scientist today morning. She's from the electronics stream, and presently the in charge of incubator of Kurukshetra University. And she said nowadays being the in charge of incubator, despite being me a scientist, I am learning entrepreneurship, I'm learning economics, I'm learning management, and I'm really mesmerized at the kind of knowledge which exists in these fields of studies, right? So in today's world, scientists need to talk with the management people need to sit with the engineers and doctors and such cross-functional teams. When they will sit and when they will develop the cases, then probably we will be able to have a bigger picture of our learning outcomes, because ultimately, we are into the business of creating socially productive, useful human beings. It's not professionals only that we are creating. It's the members of society that we are creating. It's an individual human being we are creating. We are creating a person who has got a physical component, a mental and cognitive component, as well as a spiritual component. So probably with these ideas, I once again take the opportunity to congratulate you all for this wonderful, wonderful session. When I was listening to the report which was presented, I was really exhilarated by the galaxy of people whom you have invited. It takes a hell lot of an effort. I know organizing such an event is not an easy task. It takes a hell lot of an effort to do this, and you have done a real justice to this. Kudos to, of course, your efforts. And also, the say compliments to the wonderful people who have taken time to attend this online program, because now the challenge lies on your side. Because let it not be an event, let it be a process of, say, developing the thoughts and ideas. So with this, once again, I congratulate the organizers as well as the wonderful set of academia who are present here. And I'm sure that this will be a great event which will set the ball rolling. And I was just telling to Vishal, if you look at my social media posts, I am today running a hashtag. That hashtag is real education is offline, right? So I would request the organizers that now I think so let's move on from online and let's move on to offline. Because if we have to change India, if we have to develop India, I think so we'll have to come out of the virtuals, because world is real. World is not virtual. World is real. And if we have to live in real world, it will happen only and only when we'll have real teaching which will be delivered offline. And I'm waiting for that opportunity to happen. Wish you all the very best once again.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
inviting
much.
me
Thank
to
you
this
so much.
galaxy of scholars. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tajinder sir. You linked Panchatantra, Vikram Betal, Jatka Tales. You brought back all these memories. Uh, you also highlighted the importance of teacher training and also of writing cases. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective on the case studies, a tool for effective teaching. Now, I take the privilege to invite and introduce to you all our keynote speaker, Professor Gurcharan Singh, to address all of us. Dr. Gurcharan Singh is currently holding the position of Professor in School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala, and remained head of the department from 2017 to 2020. He is qualified in diverse areas like MA Economics, LLB, MCOM, PG Diploma in Management of Public Enterprises, PG DCA, and PG Diploma in Journalism and Mass Communication, and Doctorate in Management. Dr. Gurcharan Singh has been in the teaching profession for last 27 years. Dr. Singh has got to his credit 100 publications in reputed national and international journals and also has published 6 books. He has handled one minor UGC research project and working as Deputy Coordinator SAP program in the department. In December 2017, Himachal Pradesh Commerce and Management Association conferred on him the award of HPCMA Research Award for the outstanding contribution in the field of commerce and management. Dr. Gurcharan Singh teaches business administration classes and handles subjects in the area of finance and strategic management. He is a member of Board of Studies, Executive Council, and several other committees of different universities. He had chaired the technical sessions in more than 150 seminars and conferences. He had participated in national and international conferences as resource person and presented research papers at reputed educational institutions like IIMs and IITs in India. He traveled widely to different parts of the world for mutual exchange programs. Furthermore, he has traveled to various countries, USA, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, etc., for participating in conferences, seminars, and other academic pursuits. Apart from these, he is also actively involved in administrative responsibility and remained in charge of Right to Information Cell and Legal Cell of University for more than a decade. Gurcharan sir, we invite you for your address. Over to you, sir, please.
First of all, thank you, Pooja. Thank you for inviting me to share my views on the subject of delivery and design of the case studies. Dr. Pravinder Singh, Vice Chancellor, Maharaj University, Riyadh and Maharaj University. Dr. Tajinder Sharma, guest of the honor for the day. Dr. Vishal, a principal of the Sri Aurobindo College. D.K. Sindhwani ji, who happened to be a secretary for the for your society of college or management committee of the college, and other members on the board. Let me first of all give my compliments to Dr. Vishal that organizing such kind of workshops are really difficult in these days. I happened to organize a number of workshops when I was heading the department, or I was not heading the department, even in the headship of other persons. I know what kind of hassles you have to undergo for organizing such kind of events. Arranging resource person, arranging technology, arranging your clientele for these workshops is really very challenging task for a organizer. And Dr. Vishal, you did a wonderful job, really wonderful job that has happening nowadays. And moreover, the issue which you took today was really different from the issues normally being held in other workshops. People are going for research methodology workshops but you took a very different type of topic, that is a case study method. And especially when you're talking about business education, commerce education, management education, taking this type of topic is really a challenging task today. And for that matter, my whole compliments, heartfelt compliments for
Thank you.
organizing this event. Not only to you and to your team also, because this is always a team effort. Being a leader, you owe all kind of credit for this event. Now coming to another issue, I have two speeches to make. One is shorter one, another is longer one, because Dr. Tejinder has simplified my work as a keynote speaker. He has almost spoken all those things which I was supposed to do. But somehow I now ask yourself that which would like you to listen from me, a shorter one or a longer one? Let's say if it is a shorter one, longer one, thank you very much.
Okay.
If it's a shorter one, thanks. So my speech is over. Jokes apart, jokes apart. Dr. Tejinder was talking about a number of things that almost 2000 years back, when these Panchtantra stories or Vikram Betal stories were there, and they became a kind of case studies for teaching to our youngsters. Really, that's a wonderful example which he have shared. But nowadays, the migration from those Panchtantras to this kind of corporate world again needs a different kind of maturity, a different kind of pedagogy which needs to be fulfilled. And today, the pedagogy of case studies has become a ubiquitous and universal in management education. And this management education again is becoming very competitive. And under this competitive scenario, how you are dealing with your students, which are real critical product for an industry, you are going to train them. You are going to make them versatile so that they are a useful assets for a turbulent period, for their turbulent scenarios, for their corporate world. And this training, what Dr. Tejinder was also focusing on, that training is to the students also, but to teach students, you train your teachers also. And the endeavor Dr. Vishal took for this workshop was again a appreciable endeavor. I was reminding of some of the things when we started our teaching. I worked in bank earlier for about 9 years. Then I shifted to teaching. But when we started teaching to management students, this methodology was not so popular in B sector B schools, B grade B schools. Yes, it was popular in A grade B schools. And it was almost an imagination in our mind that how these case studies are being conducted, how the case studies are being written. And once you prepare those case studies, how these case studies are finalized and ultimately become a source of information for training to our students. Case studies normally, when you deliver, it becomes a practical and applicable illustrations, and that can be allied to executives' prior experiences, because it leads to expression of prior experiences of executives, and it leads to an anchor concepts. It gives some theoretical frameworks also. It gives analogous settings also, and it also provides some kind of drama, flamboyant stories, though Dr. Tejinder was talking about that this is not a story, but ultimately when you give a gist or sequence of events, then that gist or sequence of events is given like a story. Hence, this story ultimately gives a analytical basis to our students. which expand attention and retention and also inspire involvement within your classroom setups. Now, that is one of the research which has already been done. And for this matter, when we take a scenario happening in India and abroad, Harvard Business School has a long built its pedagogy around case study method of instructions. But when you talk about India, India is a laggard country in this aspect. Now, what is the need of this case study for, especially when you talk about business education? I am first of all focusing on the pivotal role of business education. The pivotal role of business education is to transform our students into managers and who can help shaping organizations, bringing novelty at the individual or the corporate level. They should help in resolving disputes. They should help in managing conflicts, and they should deal with all this with excellence at their workplace. Now, if they have to do this, meaning thereby their training should be in such kind of environment where they can get those type of inputs and develop the skills so that they can transform a corporate into a excellent corporate. Now, one more issue which is a concern about this case study in a business education, the relevance of case study in a business education is because business education enables a person to improve his skills and elevates his professional stature. That is why the business graduates are a critical input for the industry, meaning thereby to meet this requirement, industry also looks for universities, and the relationship between universities or academia and industry becomes very important, where universities or higher educational institutions have to provide all those requisite material in a human being so that they can be an asset for industry. Unfortunately, in India, there is a weak relationship between the higher education institutions and industry. That is the reason, because there is a weak relationship. To strengthen this relationship, to give those kind of skill sets in a human being as a business graduate, you need to train a people. And for training a people, the best pedagogy method to do it today is, especially in business education, is case study method. 1, 2. A business education, as Dr. Tejinder was also talking about, it is just not like a classroom, sitting in a classroom only. This is not like all other disciplines. This is something else where a business student needs hands-on training and a command on all related subjects like management, psychology, communication, IT, statistics. They need to develop their domain knowledge in all these aspects. For that matter, they need to develop their own strong, visible skill with an analysis basis. But unfortunate part is, Dr. Tijendra was also mentioning it. When we take these case studies in India, those are not India-specific case studies. Those are not Indian-oriented scenario case studies. Normally, these are imported from different foreign countries, and more of this is a US model of business education. And it is not apparently available in India. This is almost available at global level. Even global institutions, they are importing that kind of, they are implementing and importing that US model of business education. Now, what is need? The need is what industry needs, what academia can give to them, right? That needs some kind of relationship. And for that matter, case studies can be some kind of experimental studies where a student can investigate the phenomena in a real life context. And they become not only an analyst, they become a researcher also, they become an analyst also, they become a communicator also, they become a solution resolver also. I hope my predecessors in last 2 days, last day and today, they might have given some kind of information about what case study teaching is. And I'm not focusing on those things, but somehow as case study, because it is assumed that it is a wide range of problems posed for analysis. It is based on a real life events or construction of events. It can be discussed in a complex way also. It can be discussed in a simple way also. The major issue in this case is that it involves the student's real as a real character in actual situations. Because once you give a situation, students will adapt that role of a character and then try to modify that, they implement their role so that they can give a solution in that particular situation. Because I was talking about that there is a need for students' involvement. 2-3 studies have been conducted. No, one study, it says it is a study by Angelo and Boherer 2009 and Schwartz 2013. What they say: having students work through complex, ambiguous, real-world problems engages students with the course material, encouraging them to see it from an action perspective. Now, this is an important, to see it from an action perspective rather than to analyze it from a distance. Now, that they emphasize on it, that when you involve a student in this complex, ambiguous, real-world problems, they see those situations from action perspective rather than they stand at a distance and then they view it. No, they involve themselves and then they involve themselves how to act upon it. Now, another study which has been conducted by Davis and Wilcock, again, what he said, it allows the application of theoretical concepts, bridging the gap between theory and practice. Now, that's why a case study becomes an important. There are number of advantages of case study, but I'm talking about where there are challenges in case study. Now, when you talk about a case studies, because case studies, first of all, have to develop. 1, then they have to be discussed. 2, then they have to go for giving a solutions also. 3, neither by case study is always a situation specific, but the findings cannot be generalized. Now, that is a major challenge for case study, because the findings cannot be generalized. For one situation, for similar situation, you can generalize, but for different situations, for different broader perspectives, the case study method or the findings of case study cannot be generalized. 2, when you develop these case studies, you need to have lot of permissions from different sources. If you take some kind of data from one organization, you need to have permission. Otherwise, you cannot go for writing down a case study. 1, 2. If you need to have some kind of data from your respondents, and respondents belongs to one company, you need to have permission to have those respondents to get those respondents responses. Without permission, you cannot get it. Third issue is 2 dimensions of case study. The one dimension is because you write down a case study, that consumes time. You apply this teaching method into your teaching, that also consumes a lot of time, because there are different kind of stages. First, as a teacher, you give some input about a topic, students write down or you write down, and then there is a monitoring of that case, then there is a polishing of that case, and then there are some resource material which you prepare along with it. A hell lot of tasks are to be completed before you finalize that. Yes, the plan of case study is finalized. It is a highly time consuming, and perhaps when you teach in a class, that also becomes a challenge, that within a time framework you have to complete your syllabus, and on the other hand you have to go for a case study also. Mind it, case study cannot replace lecture also. Yes, this is a supporting tool to enhance the value of your teaching, but the lecture method you cannot replace with your case study. Now, there are some meta skills which we can talk about, and there are again studies for it. Now, one study which has been given by Lee in 2009, he says A case-based learning facilitates learning transfer and real-world applicability, problem solving, and investigating the material. Another author, Williams, in 2004, he summarizes the benefits of case use. He says applying theoretical knowledge to the real school text context, clarify personal beliefs about teaching, compare and evaluate their own and others' perspectives, and develop the practice of reflection also. Because how as a teacher you perceive the things, how the student as a student perceive the things, there can be a mismatch regarding it. And then you have to create that balance also, because Dr. Tejendra was also talking about class is not of a similar type of persons. Class has a diverse kind of students within your composition of class. Hence, you are trying to make all those diverse people understandable, getting them learning, and that needs a developing of a practice of reflection as well. I'm not going for what are the things which are required. Finally, where I would like to conclude is this case study converts passive learning into active learning. That is the most important issue where I want to close. Now, let me give you few variables which comes under passive learning and few variables which comes under active learning. Under passive learning, thus the participants receive ideas, and under active learning, the participants offer ideas. Now, that is the difference. And these case studies allows migration from passive learning to active learning. Under passive learning, participants just answer questions, but in active learning, they raise questions. In passive learning, they just hear analysis, but in active learning, they make analysis. In passive learning, they just examine texts. In active learning, they engage texts. Now, that is a difference where you create that kind of balance also. In passive learning, you accept only assumptions. Whatever assumptions are there, you accept. But in passive learning, you accept assumptions. But in active learning, you challenge those assumptions. You create new assumptions for it. You create some innovative aspects for it. In passive learning, it is just a faculty-student dialogue. And in active learning, there is a student-student dialogue. In passive learning, it is more of a faculty locus, but in active learning, it is more of a student locus. Now, what we have to decide, whether we should only focus on passive learning or we should focus on active learning. Now, that was a context of Tejinder also. Tejinder was also mentioning it, that the teachers also need to be trained. And this training ultimately would lead a conversion of passive learning to active learning. And the teacher will become a source for active learning within your students. When I give you one more example, because when I was teaching my PhD students, we have one workshop on teaching of pedagogy. Now, three types of methods are there: student-centric methods, teacher-centric methods, and cooperative learning methods. Ultimately, these case studies are becoming a student-centric method. It is an inductive method. Students learn their own, and teachers just become a resource person. Teacher just just manages and regulate that kind of what you call knowledge amongst the students. Wonderfully, Dr. Vishal have really created this platform for those teachers. And I must say that this is not a stopping point for Sri Aurobindo College. This is not a stagnating point for Dr. Vishal. Dr. Vishal will take a new endeavors for teacher training as well as for students training methods. Ultimately, if you take these kind of initiatives, this will help its own house also, its own inbuilt skill sets also. Wonderfully, Dr. Vishal, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much, sir.
You did a wonderful job, and I must congratulate you. And it is a kind of privilege for me to share my opinions on this podium with a galaxy of intellectuals which are gathered on this podium. And I also must congratulate you that the kind of resource person you arranged for this tedious subject, which is really a tedious subject, challenging subject. Those are again a marvelous job which you did. God bless all. Thank you very much. That's all from me. Over to Pooja.
Yeah. Dr. Pooja, actually, Dr. Pravinder has a very urgent meeting. So please try to introduce him as soon as possible, and so that he can give us his blessings.
Yeah, actually, okay, I'll try to read out his profile very quickly. But before that, let me thank Gurcharan sir for sharing his opinion and for touching upon very relevant issues in the context of the workshop. Now I'm delighted while I introduce and invite our chief guest of the day, Professor Pravinder Singh, for his valuable inputs. Professor Pravinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Rahat Bahara University, Mohali, and formerly Controller of Examinations, Punjab University, Chandigarh, has a ubiquitous experience of 34 years in the education sector, including a glorious 26 years of teaching experience. He has been a controller of examinations for 7+ years and registrar examination for 12 years and has coordinated many national and state examinations. His name is associated with numerous prestigious awards such as Australia's Northeast Asia Fellowship for PhD course and then Award of Honor, All India Council of Principals and Merit Scholarship for BSc and MSc, Punjab University. He had been the convener of many international and national conferences, seminars, and workshops, and has authored books, research papers, and also has presented and published many articles on chemical education, and some of them are published in Plenum Press, New York. When he joined the Center of Excellence under the Government of India in January 2013, he initiated and executed various examination reforms also. In addition, he acted as chairman and member of various university committees constituted by the vice chancellor. And he very successfully introduced the semester system at the undergrad level. Then recently, he was an integral part of launching the Examiners online portal for college and university teachers. As a vice chancellor, he accomplished many remarkable feats, such as the academic audit of 30 departments as an IQACT performance, about 10 global MOUs signed for students and international internships and faculty exchange programs, academy industry linkage developed and strengthened by involving MNCs, entrepreneurs, and incubation centers. He played an impressive part in boosting academic excellence by bringing various qualitative reforms. In addition, he has organized and had been a part of countless workshops, webinars, symposiums, uniting education thought leaders in events like the Vice Chancellor's Roundtable Meet by Microsoft, perspective reforms and initiatives required for internationalization of higher education, digital leadership, etc. We are grateful to you, sir, that you gave your consent to be part of this workshop. Your profile, there's so much to read about it, but because of paucity of time, I just read a few of the things. So thank you so much for gracing the event with your presence. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. I am really thankful to Dr. Vishal, who is in the driving seat of very prestigious College of Punjab University, Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce. I think I am the one officer who was always impressed with the results of the Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce. And the college who never compromised on the principles, whether it was attendance or it was anything. So I know the tough time had passed when Mr. Bayal was principal, and I used to have very high opinion for the Shri Aurobindo College. And I used to visit as and when I was invited by Honorable Padam Shri Oswal ji, who always blessed me despite of his age factor. I'm very lucky to have his blessings. So I think this is his blessing and patronage. The college is always progressing with leaps and bounds. So I am grateful to the management and to Secretary Mr. Sinwan, and of course the today's speaker, Professor Tejinder, and very impressive talk of Professor Gurcharan Singh ji, who is known for his wisdom. And I am very thankful that we are on the same platform today. It's always love to listen to Professor Guchanji. So thank you very much. And this was one of the unique, innovative idea of Dr. Vishal, whom I know from Baddi, and then earlier he was in our affiliated college. He's a very young, brilliant, and he has a long inning to play as principal. And we wish he should be vice chancellor of very good university. He has his talent, potential. Being a vice chancellor, I think I can wish him as my friend. He should follow us, and there are good opportunities. Of course, Arvindo will give him big elevation. So, wishing you all the best. About the topic, I think it was very important. I am not a person of commerce, but since now in the administration for last more than 10 years, I have learned a little bit about the administration, which I usually called is as a participative management. I am professor of science, but I think in the teamwork, when you lead as a vice chancellor or as the policy maker or as the educator, so you need to have some components in your personality that become the, let us say we start with the documentation and the case study. So documentation is a very successful practice. It is considered as one of the invaluable uh, recipe to integrate the efforts, expertise, the experience of the stakeholder in providing solution to the most critical social, economic, and environmental problems which are faced by the today's society. And this will be with regard to the pandemic, which has conveyed so many messages. So every day there is a case study from the logistic to the delivery, the design and the documentation of the case. It should be very effective so that in a very short time you are to project and you are to make the things visible. That means the transmitting of the knowledge through involvement of the individuals, and that is the generating a very high level of interest among the society. So to me this is a documentation, and then the case study will be a carefully selected well written document that can induce the reality into the training setting, and of course the reasonable level of the correctness to the reality. So this has become increasingly very popular, as Professor Tejinder was highlighting, and of course Professor Gurcharan. The participant-centered learning is very much required. So that is the need of how that it demonstrates the life in a very realistic way. Instead of the conventional teaching or the hypothetical concepts or the hypotheses, uh, unless they are proved to be law, the theories and the laws. So we need to understand the complexity of the situation in a multi-dimensional nature of this problem, and coming to the individual, how they understand the situation of the perspective of wider organizational interest. So case study should be for the betterment of the organizational behavior, and it should not be merely the problem of one individual. So it is a societal need that you should have the conclusion analysis based on the case study. So idea of developing the case study is not a new, separately as Panchatantra was, Tejinderji was talking. So it is in the education and training, there seems to be a very rapid increase in the organization which are seeking introduce a case study as a important curriculum component. So what will be required to have a wider outlook of the situation, issues which are faced in the society, they should be documented. So develop the participant ability, how much they can work and how much they can decide, and what can be the crisis control management by the individuals, and that will be the appropriate course of the action which should be mentioned as a pretty part in the document. So thereby creating a knowledge and the skills among the participant and among the society that will help to deal with the multitudes of the situation, and that should also be part of the case study. So I think the conclusively the stimulation of the analytical approach scientifically, in-depth discussion for the better understanding, that will really help to achieve the goals. So what should be the impact with these case studies? I think the impact will be, so knowledge will be pooled from one group to the other. From group, it will move to the society. So cooperation and interpersonal skill will be explored. So communication skill will be highlighted, teamwork and the presentation of the skill that will be visible. So in this small steps should be taken, which I understand. What is the format of the case study? What are the process and the guidelines which are to be followed? And how to understand and develop an element based on the learning objective. So it should be a very simple situation. Apply the best practice from whatever the source you can achieve. So develop a checklist whether the successful modulation has been done or not. So identify a key decision, and thereafter the management or the organization should decide what are the action taken on the basis of the case study. So therefore it will describe the significance of the case study. This is what I consider as the case study. So without going in the technicalities, I think you will excuse me. Whatever I could understand, the documents and the case studies. So as a science professor, I think you can give me the apology for this season. So wishing
Really.
you all the best. It was a very wonderful exercise by a professor, our principal Vishalji, to make the very intelligence here on this platform of Shri Aurobindo. And please keep on doing. Society and the fraternity, they need such exposures. So this is how you can sensitize your colleagues, your students, and that will bring the best results. So thank you very much. God bless you. Thanks for giving me opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for sparing time. I am really, grateful from the core of my heart that, in spite of your so busy schedule, you spared time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Parvinder sir, for highlighting the relevance of case studies and sharing your ken on the case study methodology. Now, I request Dr. Mrinal Gupta, Registrar of the College, to present a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Pooja ma'am. Honorable Professor Parvinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Rai Bahara University, Mohali. Professor Tejinder Sharma, who is the Chairman, Department of Commerce, Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, who is the guest of honor for the day. And the keynote speaker, Professor Gurcharan Singh, ex-chairman of School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala. And our most esteemed and treasured guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. But before that, let me share with you that in today's world, the world is very contemporary, and in this world, the use of traditional and static teaching learning methodologies is not going to match with the purpose of real education. So we need to address this issue, and for addressing that, for checking this issue, the case study method is an effective way to help the students to practically apply their skills and their understanding of the learned facts to a real world situation. To the best of my understanding, case study engages the students in a reflective discussion. It encourages higher order thinking, facilitates creative problem solving, allows the students to develop realistic solutions to the complex problems, develops students' ability to identify and then distinguish between the critical and the extraneous factors, and it also enables the students to apply the previously acquired skills. So in nutshell, I can say that this case study methodology bridges the gap between a more teacher-centric lecture method and a pure problem-based learning. Here, I would like to quote one thing, that this is the time when we need to use this teaching methodology of case studies. Like we know that in our university, our offline teaching is going to start from tomorrow, and our students will be coming to the campus after almost 4 semesters. So they are not in the habit of having patience, and they might not be that disciplined. So to engage the students, I think the case study method will be of great help to the teachers. So now, on behalf of the Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management, I would like to express my gratitude to the worthy speakers for sparing time from their busy schedule. So today we got an opportunity to listen to your thoughts, and it's surely going to encourage the teaching fraternity. When I was pursuing my PhD in the School of Management Studies, I used to listen to so many sessions of Professor Gurcharan Singh ji, and listening to him was always a treat. So once again, today I got an opportunity. So from the core of my heart, I'm thankful to you, sir. I would also like to express my gratitude to all the esteemed delegates for their benign presence. Well, ladies and gentlemen, event like this cannot happen overnight because it requires a lot of planning and bird's eye for every minute detail. And we are very fortunate that we have a very strong support system in the name of our worthy principal, Dr. Vishal Kumar, who always guide us, who is the guiding force when it comes to thinking out of the box. And whenever we ask him for any help, any assistance, he is always there. And in the end, I would like to express my gratitude to the team, Professor Monica Sethi and Dr. Pooja Jain, for making this event possible. Because with this, we will be able to improve the teaching learning process, and we will be able to match the expectations of the industry and the academia. Thank you very much.
I am fortunate to have the team like you people, Dr. Mirinal. That is why the things are happening, and we are able to organize such a wonderful events.
So this is a beginning, and we, as a team, will take this institution a new height, which nobody could have imagined. So that is a task before us. You have
Thank
set a
you.
bar. Thank you, sir.
Right, Ji Vishal.
Thank
So
you,
we
sir.
team, and again congratulations on this
Thank you so much.
completion of
Thank you
this
so much.
a huge event which you organized.
Wonderful blessings, sir. Thank you so much. So grateful.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.